I'd really just said comfort today. I've got like a sweatshirt on. I'm wearing my... This is a bad idea. I'm wearing my bike shorts. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm on the wrong way. Ah, what is this? But I really did say the vibe is comfort for today. Hey everyone, I am Styleboy and welcome to my world. And in today's video, we're back with the autism themed videos. Woo! And today we are talking about something that I feel like weirdly doesn't get discussed enough on YouTube, and that is internalized ableism. It is definitely something that a lot of autistic people, disabled people, and neurodivergent people go through. And I don't know if other people felt this, but this is something that I've definitely been through, especially when you're in a bad headspace and you're just not feeling it. For me, when I'm down, internalized ableism goes almost up and I become ableist to myself. I feel like this is just something that I feel like I want to discuss about, because as much as I love my autism and I am happy with it and it's part of my identity and I'm so proud of it, I want to discuss this side because I do understand that it's not an easy journey and it never has been an easy journey. And the more I learn about my autism, the more I learn about myself, the more like sometimes this comes around, and I really want to discuss it. I also understand that other communities also face similar things like this, such as like internalized homophobia, which is something else I have personally been through as well. Internalized racism, internalized transphobia, etc. Like, we're not the only community that faces these internal struggles in our head, but I want to describe it through my perspective as being an autistic man. Subscribe, because believe me, the autistic content is not going to stop. Without further ado, I think we shall begin. What is internalized ableism? Now, I tried to look on Google, could not find a definition that actually made sense. Internalized ableism, for me, the way I would describe it is basically the internal abuse towards your disability based on outside ableism that you receive. Does that make sense? And obviously internalized ableism can be because of so many different reasons, and I'm gonna go through this video what are some of the reasons that I go through it, how I go through it, and how I deal with it after. Firstly, let's start with the first topic. How do I come around to internalized ableism? It's through external ableism. It's through people being ableist to me. That's one of the main reasons. So I've literally done a whole entire video on this. It's actually quite a funny video, I'm not gonna deny, but it's also through comments that aren't necessarily like harsh or like traditionally ableist. So stuff like, oh my god, you don't look autistic, or oh my god, all a little bit autistic, or all a little bit on the spectrum, like stuff like that. Very annoying phrases. Also did videos on those. I'm basically just promoting myself. But it's also through not seeing yourself on TV and not really understanding why you're not on television. So for example, the lack of disabled representation makes me feel even worse, and that's when internalized ableism comes around. Or even when autistic people get represented, it's always this particular stereotype. Like, I remember when I was younger and there would be autistic characters, I would never relate to any of them because they're all just stereotypes. And I feel like I just felt very excluded and felt very like I wasn't enough, and that's wrong. You are worthy of it. And that feeling of not being enough is so hard. I don't know if this is for others, but this is something that I definitely have. And while I'm privileged to be diagnosed at such a young age, like I think I got diagnosed when I was 2, which is a blessing. I've only kind of recently started to discover and learn about my autism kind of since last year. And because of that, I feel immensely behind. Like obviously I know like the basics of it. I got taught when I was younger, like little things like I prefer to have time by myself, like I can't deal with loud noises. I understand that, but it's also like the other sense as I grow up, like the different things of like how I go through a meltdown as an adult, not like as a child. How I mask, I'm still trying to learn like what are the ways that I mask. There's a lot of things that I was like, oh my god, why am I doing this? It doesn't make sense. And then I would beat myself up about it and be like, this is a bad thing, we need to try and do this. And then because of my slow processing time, it makes me go like, wait, hang on a moment. Now realizing it's like a lot of this could just be because of my autism instead of me being a terrible person. But because of that, it just makes you go through this like constant battle of like, is it your autism? Is it you? Are you a bad person? Are you this? Are you that? And it's just like a constant fight in your mind, and it's just confusing as heck sometimes. And on top of that, I put this pressure on myself to be perfect and to almost like try and fit into a neurotypical world and not make mistakes and all of that. And it is hard because you're just putting so much pressure on yourself as well as trying to learn about your autism. So that plus that just equals this like big ass mess. And I'm pretty sure it's because when I was younger, I had to learn different things in order to cope with the outside world. So for example, stuff like dealing with my senses, like crisps when I was younger. And I think those little things have affected me now, because now I'm like, if I did that when I was younger, I could do so much more now. And it's like, no bitch, you grow, you develop, and you need different needs. And oh god, it then leads to more internalized ableism. It's a weird ass battle, okay? There are some of the triggers for me personally, and also just feeling not included or discluded or hearing dated stereotypes. I feel like that's another reason, like when you go into a room and you don't feel included, or when you tell people you're autistic and they react one way, but then someone else who appears to be more stereotypical is autistic and they're like, oh my god, like two different reactions. You feel like you're not enough, and that's just really hard to deal with. Like you're not enough of an autistic person. It's discouraging, it's sad, it's heartbreaking. So let's go on to some of the phrases and some of the things that it makes me feel and how I did that. So I think when I go through internalized ableism, there's so many different thoughts that come into my head, and there's so many things that, especially when you're in a bad headspace, it's really difficult in that time to get out of it. So for me, one of the ones I've definitely felt, especially when sharing my emotions or even just talking, is that I'm a burden. And I know so many people can relate to that. Neurotypical, autistic, or other neurodivergents, like even ADHD, you feel like a burden because you feel like, and this is from my personal experience, like you being autistic is this big hassle for people, this big thing to deal with, and you feel like it's this like almost like a challenge that people have to learn and to overcome. And it's like, that's not it either, because you're not a burden to yourself. And I feel like when I feel like that, it just really puts me down, and it ends up leading to me not speaking about my feelings. And that is such a sad thing, because that's really bad communication. So I think that's one reason, because a lot of the times as an autistic person with my feelings is that sometimes they just don't make sense to neurotypicals. Like I take things way too literal. I don't see the hidden messages. I don't get sarcasm. I don't get teasing humor. I would have said I'm very emotional, and I can be very emotion driven, and things affect me for the full day. And because of that, it's like I feel like I'm a burden for having these feelings, not understanding this, not understanding that. We're getting really vulnerable, but we love to see it. Yeah, honestly, that's what we're through sometimes, and it's really challenging because you feel like you mentally are just like, wow. It's hard. That's one of the things. And another thing is actually not feeling autistic enough. I have 100% felt that, even recently. I think when I was younger, I felt this a lot. Again, the early forms of representation that I saw were kids at my school, and they got support because they needed more support and I didn't. But because there wasn't many kids like me in my school who were autistic or neurodivergent and didn't need as much support, I felt like I wasn't autistic enough. Plus, I didn't get offered much support in school, especially when we're getting into a late age, like year 10 to 6th form. And when I did get offered support, it always was like promises that never were fulfilled. So it basically just felt like I wasn't, in their eyes, autistic enough. And I felt very invalid within that identity. Like I was like, why am I classed as this? Am I just like a spoiled child? Am I just someone who's just emotional and needs to deal with it? And it's tough. I think that's a really sad emotion, because you're just like, you are autistic. And the sad thing is, because I never had that representation, I never had someone to be like, you are worthy of that, you just feel like shit. You really do. And it's such a challenging thing, because that is such a huge part of your identity. And as I get older, yes, I do realize that it's such a big, because if I didn't have my autism, I wouldn't be empathetic. I wouldn't be emotionally driven in a good sense. I wouldn't be creative or so in love with fashion or the certain films or the certain music that I'm into. I wouldn't be falling head over heels. I wouldn't have this channel. There are so many things I wouldn't do without it. But the sad thing is, my brain is like, oh, I just don't feel valid enough in it because I'm not a stereotype of it. And that is definitely pushed forward by people who aren't autistic, and that's wrong. Honestly, because when TV shows are made and when films are made and when any form of representation is made, there's never autistic people in the room. And the sad thing is, because of that, me as an autistic person feels excluded from that narrative, from that conversation of representation, of being seen, of being heard. And it's so sad. I've also, in this other sense, it's like as much as I didn't feel like I was autistic enough, I've also felt undesirable as an autistic person. I keep on going down for representation. This is one of the things, but there's other side to it. But for me, I've never seen autistic people being represented as sexy or being seen as desirable or lovable. They're often just depicted as outcasts, secondary, funny characters, but because of their differences, not because they're a funny person, but because they are different, which isn't nice. I think it's particularly when it comes to the idea of like dating and love and all of that, it really just mentally affects you, because at the end of the day, you feel like you're not worthy of it. And that's a bullshit, because you are worthy of it. But I've felt like I wasn't at a moment in time. Like I felt like even before I started dating, one of the things I was really scared about was that my autism was too much for someone. And because it was too much, they wouldn't want to date me. Like I'm a burden. I'm someone who doesn't deserve to be dated. And that's bullshit, because I do deserve to have fall in love. And wow, I can definitely feel this in my chest. Oh, bitch. I feel like that desirability, and even to fit in, like I feel like I don't fit in, and that comes down to also desirability as well, because it's like at the end of the day, it's like I don't fit in, I'm not desirable enough to fit in, and that's bullshit. Again, like I keep on saying that, because if you are watching this and you are believing it, please don't believe it. This is literally just these tiny little insecurities in your head telling you this. This is not true. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of everything on the earth and more. It's just the insecurities are like, hey bitch, let's mess up your mind. You are worthy of everything in life and more. I'm gonna just stress this, because I feel like if I had this video when I was younger and just being open and honest, I feel like it would have really just been like, wow, okay, like these are human beings. And I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like I want to present being autistic as human. Like there are some obviously great parts about it, but there's some bits that I'm like, it's hard to go for as an autistic person. And this is one of the bits that doesn't get spoken about, but as a consequence of ableism. You also have to feel like you prove your disability, being like you don't deserve the accommodations. I've again felt this, like you feel like what you're asking for, or you feel like what you want or what you need in order to feel good is not worthy. So for example, actually this happened recently, and this is something that I internalized ableism. So recently, my family are getting their drive done, and my dad is doing his freaking hardest, like go him. He is excavating himself, and he wanted us to help, and I can't stand dirt. And I didn't realize that I was going through sensory overload, and it led me to melt down. And so I was like, I can't help anymore. Well, I melted down and said it. What's that deal? And then everyone else had to help out from me, because I was like, I can't do it. And I felt so guilty. Like I felt like you need to just get up, pick yourself up, and just get over this. This is nothing. You don't deserve that accommodation. You just need to move on. Even like hearing myself now, I'm like, it's wrong. And like, even if my friend had ADHD or autism and they needed like an accommodation, I would supply that accommodation, because it's just being a decent human being and being kind. So if I'm gonna do it for someone else, why wouldn't I do it for myself? And again, it's just like you feel guilty, but you also need to remember that you have these accommodations for a reason. Comparing yourself, the art of comparison, sweet. I hate this, and this is something that I do so much. My fatal flaw, what can I say? I can't be perfect. I'm so bad. I am such a comparer. Again, the song Jealousy, Jealousy just like nails it sometimes. I feel like as much as we're told not to, it just happens. Like, I think I've compared myself to my family about like, I'm not as social as my twin. I need to go out more, even though I'm in a bad headspace and I'm gonna exhaust myself. And you just feel like, well, it has to be because of my autism, and you just start comparing yourself to others, and it just gets into a messy headspace, and you end up just feeling shit. You end up feeling shit. And also you compare yourself to others, because if someone, I guess in that sense, doesn't react the same way as you feel like, oh my god, like in that sense, like I'm not good enough. And it's like, sweetie, no. I understand you are Mr. Empathetic, but sometimes, sweetie, it is okay for someone to react differently. All of these feelings are messy. They're not like clean, like, oh my god, like we'll get over this. Because if they were clean cut, bitch, I wouldn't even be feeling this. It's emotional and it's sad. Sometimes you just go through it. And this is a part of also mental health. I feel like just being open, feeling less than. Oh my god, feeling less than is another one. Which again, like less than autistic, less than gay, but also like less than, like you are less than a human. I think even like hearing this now I'm in a good space, luckily, mentally. But even hearing this now, I'm like, you are none of those. But it's so sad that my brain goes, oh my god, you could be. And the bad thing is, it's like, that's what it is. It's like ableism, internal or external, sometimes it will make you believe it because others have told you that. And because others have told you that, it must be true when it's not true. It's tough. It is really tough. And I feel like it has literally made me have like the worst days. I will literally just be in bed the entire day because it's like my brain is just trying to process something. And I feel bad for like processing that because like I should be over it quicker because all neurotypical people are, if neurotypical people are, I should be, and it's like, no. You don't have to be over something like 5 seconds. You are allowed to process stuff. And it is that sense of like, you are not allowed to be autistic or have any autistic traits because other people are not doing that. Because other people are not, you can't be. And that's why I've said many times when I'm down, it's like, it feels like I'm on a race. I'm autistic and I'm running 2 times the speed of neurotypical person who's running 1 time. And just to be equal with them, not even to be thingy. And when I slow down, I'm less. That's the problem. It really just gets into your head and you really can just beat yourself up, and it's a really emotional journey, and it is really tough. Now listening to it, I'm gonna give myself a hug. If you resonate with any of those, like, you're definitely not alone. Like, I feel like I just want to remind you that you are not any of those insecurities. You are worthy and you deserve everything in the world. Whether you go through internalized ableism or not, you deserve everything. You are incredible and you should not believe those little voices in your head telling you that, because you are amazing. So, how do I deal with it? How do I deal with internalized ableism? First thing I do, I just let myself feel it, which honestly can be so many things. It could literally just be, again, lying in my bed all day and just watching YouTube videos. It's kind of just letting yourself feel it and just go through it and process it. Especially if you are autistic or ADHD or any neurodivergence or anyone really, just feeling that feeling, because you have every right to feel it, so go and feel it. Number 2, I journal. I actually really did find that journaling just helps. I think especially if you struggle with communication, I'm just really scared in case I hurt someone, I offend someone. So for me, journaling my feelings really just helps because it's just me and I know how I feel. So I can just throw everything onto a page, write it, and then when I'm ready, I can interpret that, look at it, and just tell someone. Because telling someone how you feel is really helpful. I will 100% say, and that's one sense of communication I love, but I can't tell someone instantly because sometimes I'm even trying to figure out how I feel individually. That's a lot actually. So journaling, to take your time, really does help. I think not putting pressure on yourself either to try and do anything that day. Like if you are feeling crappy and internalized ableism is really affecting you, literally just do nothing. You are not a bad person and you are not an unproductive human. You're having a shit day. Do what you need to do to heal. And for me, it's just, I need to feel everything because it allows my brain to think about it. I need to talk to myself. I need to journal. I need to feel it. I think also at the end of that day, because for me, oftentimes it can be like a very long period of time, be kind to yourself after. So especially if you are going through and you figure out what it is and you know it's rubbish and you talk to someone about it, it's just be kind to yourself at the end of the day. So whether that is, for example, going to watch your favorite film or watching a comfort film, allowing yourself to have those little rewards and those little things that make you feel good. Like for example, comfort films, my weighted blanket, the neon light over here, like those little things make me feel good and they lead me to like sensory happiness and lead me to like almost a sense of like joy and euphoria in a way, because it's like, this is my comfort zone, this is what I enjoy doing. I love it, I really do, and it makes me feel so good. Oh, I need time alone. I need that time to process how I feel and I can't be dealing with people. But for me, if you need time alone like me, probably might want to try it out. Even if it's for like an hour or 2 on the day, that's cool. You don't need to do everything every single day. And also, I think a good thing to do is just remind yourself that you are more than any of those. You need to remind yourself that you are not those thoughts. You are not someone's negative opinion. You are you. I'm thinking the taste of clean speech now. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of joy. You are worthy of everything. You are worthy of your accommodations. You're worthy. You are autistic enough. You are not a burden. You are loved. You are desirable, you deserve everything in the world, and you are incredible. There's a lucky little heart there. Another really good way is just talk to a therapist if you really want to. That does help. Please just be kind to yourself. Like, you have gone through a lot, even within this space of like 2020 to 2021, you have been through loads. Just remind yourself that you are worthy of everything. Everything that you feel is valid and it is okay. Talk about it, discuss about it. You are amazing. I feel like we should end with a bop, just like a little dance around, right? It's been too serious. We need something fun. Remember when I blew the I hope to see you next week with another new video, and make sure you subscribe also. I'll see you guys next week. Bye! Bye!